Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts with the only Chris Level. I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you for some bonus time. Special edition of Locked On Texas Tech, voices from the YouTube comments, where we love to dive into the dust up and just see what the lunatics are saying this week, asking, commenting, accusing, whatever it might be. We're not afraid to bring it on. So let's get right into it and get into comment or question number one. This is from our buddy Blaine Baker, 8918. And you guys are running wild in the basketball community. This is my commentary. You guys are running wild in the basketball community this week following JT Toppin joining the ranks of the Red Raiders, because, Chris, this is not even a question that was on my radar or one I was really even rolling around, I guess, over the last couple of weeks or months. But there are a few fans rolling this around now, including Mr. Baker. He says, would you care to offer a way too early guess on a basketball preseason ranking, Big 12 or national? Now, I knew we'd be ranked in the Big 12 because, well, we're in the Big 12. But I got to tell you, national top 25 preseason ranking, like I already said, not really on my radar, and I don't know if it'll actually come to pass. I guess we'll see, but there are some fans maybe now considering such things as you continue to add to your roster with maybe the biggest piece yet. So what do you think about this kind of thing, the Red Raiders potentially being in a preseason top 25 hoops ranking?
Yeah, and I love the questions from the lunatics, because there are lunatics, dang it, and I love our lunatics. Yeah, that's right. I mean, my kind of people. I think that you're right. This isn't a question that's really has much relevance prior to JT Toppin's addition, not because you weren't, going to be any good or be competitive, but it speaks to how loaded your league is, and two, you had a bit of an incomplete roster here. And I think that since JT Toppin has announced his commitment, and he's supposed to be in Lubbock, I think later in the weekend or early next week, I think that addition changes things. He's a bona fide pro. I think that it will not only change recruiting for you, not just now, but like I think in the future, it's got a chance to pay some dividends. It's like, hey, look what. If this goes well, hey, look what they did with him, kind of deal. If you want to go get developed and all those things. But as far as like a top 25 ranking, there's some national folks that talk about this all the time, like talk about the sport all the time. And I listen to a lot of what they say. And some of the consensus has been that you kind of have it's not an under the radar or sneaky good, because I think now you're somewhat on the radar. But I think that a lot of the commentary has been, okay, let's look at what they've got here. They've got a legit point guard. They have a lot of shooting to go with it. Now they have, some legitimate size and skill on the interior. And then you add Grant McCaslin and what he can do from a development standpoint, and all the injuries that they had last year, and that they were still third in the league, and all those things. And I think people are all of a sudden going, you know what? I think this is a top 25 roster. Now, are they going to be picked ahead of, and if I was, trying to pin it down, I would say that I bet you're somewhere between like the, 18 to 25 range, or just outside of the top 25. I think that there's a bit of a tier here, a clear cut, that I think most national folks are going to view. They're going to say Kansas may be the top or one of the top teams in the country. Now, they got some rough news earlier in the week. It's not going to hurt them too bad, but Johnny Furphy is going to stay in the draft. He was a kid that played a ton of basketball for him last year, so that they will not get that piece on their roster. But there's still depth, and they've added a lot. But Kansas, I think Houston, Iowa State, Baylor are kind of – these are top 10 teams for sure. And I think I don't know if I mentioned Iowa. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, it's Arizona is the other one that's kind of right there with them. So you've got You've got Houston, Kansas being tops. You've got Baylor, Iowa State, and then I think Arizona's kind of right there. So there's a group of them that are going to be top 10, top 12-ish teams. I think a lot of people have a lot of respect for what Cincinnati. I've seen a lot of mention of them as they've added a few pieces and bring the majority of their team back that just missed the NCAA tournament. But I think Texas Tech is right there in that next tier after those top, I guess, what would it be, 5 schools. So you could be, like, for example, 6th in the Big 12, and that could be still a top 25 team, just to speak what the league is, because Baylor is loaded. Houston brought everybody back, added a quality piece from University of Oklahoma. They're going to have to replace Jamal Shedd, which is no easy task. Kansas, brought a lot back. They added a ton. I mean, Bill Self was sitting there telling you in the middle of the season, folks, I've been thinking about the portal all year long. Like, well, coach, you still got
Right.
games to coach. Yeah, but I mean, I just think that's where his brain was. Yeah, exactly.
He was over that team, it seemed like, last year.
Yes, and understandably so. Yeah. Iowa State, who was a 2 seed in the tournament, I believe, they bring the majority of everybody back and could be a first-team all-conference guy in Taman Lipsey. They added a few pieces as well. So it's not a slight to say that Texas Tech is like right there on that next tier. It still could be top 25-ish, but I don't think you're going to be ranked ahead of those other 5. I guess it's if I'm doing the math right. But I think you're ahead of Cincinnati and the majority of everybody else in this league, and it's a pretty stout conference again. But the Toppin edition now enters you into a different conversation. Yes.
Interesting. So this doesn't seem just like a hyped up Texas Tech fan question or possibility, but maybe some national media. Texas Tech has gotten their attention as well.
Yeah, I think that's what Toppin does. I think McCaslin deserves a lot of credit. I think that the Elijah Hawkins edition deserves a lot of credit. And then your D5s, your Chance McMillans, your Kerwin Waltons, your Devin Cambridges, all those kinds of things. I think a lot of people feel like that, well, there could be a lot of sneaky good additions in this league. I think one of Texas Tech's is going to be Federico. I think that is like one that is not going to get the hype or the talk that Hawkins or Toppin do, and understandably so. But I think that his statistics were somewhat modest at Pitt. I think much like Warren Washington, they feel like they can glean more out of him. But the folks internally will tell you, we've got a roster now that we can beat anybody in the country any given night. Now, are you going to win all of them? No. But you now have a legit chance to beat anybody on your team, home or away, anybody on your roster. Your schedule. Geez, team roster. I meant schedule, but third time's the charm. But I think that's what having a legit pro can do for you. I still have questions, as in we talked a lot about this last year. At the end of the game, who takes that shot? You need a bucket. Who's the guy that does that? Who can kind of take over, if you will? I don't know if Toppin is necessarily that guy. I don't know if D5 is that guy. I don't know if it's Hawkins. Maybe they share that, but it'll be kind of a fascinating. The good news is that you have some options here, like legit options. And I think that's what makes this a lot of fun. And we'll see kind of what they do with these other couple of spots, or if they do anything with them to kind of add a little more salt and pepper to the on top of the steak before they put it on the grill. So
I think as the year went on last year, I would have told you early on, like Pop Isaacs is the guy I want pulling the trigger towards the end of the game. But as the season went on, it kind of became more than one guy. Pop sort of shifted to I don't want to say the back, but he shifted away from the top of the list for me personally as a fan. But it wasn't just because of one other individual, whether it was Darion Williams or Kerwin Walton, Chance McMillan, Joe Toussaint specifically at the free throw line. I mean, I thought there was like some clutch gene and a couple of different guys out there that could get buckets for you. So it doesn't always have to be one. It's nice to know that you have at least one, but it would be great as well if you were able to have more than one. And as far as Federico is concerned, defend, defend, defend. Anything otherwise on the offensive end, I think could be a bonus. Of course, the Pitt fans who lost his services, like every player lost for any fan base, we're not sad to see him go. One of the best lines I saw about any player ever, I saw a Pitt fan commenting when we talked about his addition weeks ago in the YouTube comments, speaking of lunatics, who said he got pushed around like a shopping cart last year, which is hilarious. I don't know how I've never heard that line before, but that one stuck with me. So let's avoid doing that. Defend, defend. Did I say defend? And I think I'll be really high on his addition and possible impact if he just becomes one of those guys for you on the defensive end of the floor. But I am going to roll the dice on McCaslin and company's ability to squeeze a little more out of these guys than maybe some other coaching staffs. And I think Warren Washington was a great example of that. So maybe we'll see it with Federico as well. But I'm encouraged a little bit because I was kind of thinking when I'm reading through the comments, I see this one. I'm like, okay, I'm willing to consider it. But is this just a fan base that's really excited about an addition? But we'll keep our eyes peeled as we get into some preseason ranking time of year down the road. And maybe it'll be outside of the fan base also considering this type of deal.
And I think one more thought on Federico. I think that, see, Warren, he didn't really necessarily have a sidekick or a mate manning the paint, the post. I think D5, did his part at times. I think, there was some, Grant would often talk, our guards just have to rebound better. We as a team have to rebound better. But now Federico, he's got JT Toppin.
We're talking Twin Towers, baby.
And potentially, Devin Cambridge.
Yeah.
Whereas that was a huge piece that was missing last year. So there's a lot more assets that you can throw at a rebounding problem, a rim protection problem,
an offensive space problem. I mean, whatever it might be.
That too, yes. So,
it all helps, anyway, right? I'm thinking about like a pair of defensive ends, like Javon Curse made Kevin Carter millions of dollars on the other side of that defensive line because Curse was a maniac.
Tennessee Titans on me.
Well, there's so many examples over the years. You've got one just animal going ballistic on one side. He's the true talent, but then you're freeing up the other guy to start collecting some sacks and money and whatever, and it tends to work that way. So maybe it can work that way in the front court for Texas Tech as well. Would love to see all of the above and appreciate the question. All right, let's get onward to this, more of a comment, but submission number 2. First, today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Never sweat buying tickets to your favorite events again with Gametime. It's always a breeze using the Gametime app where you're going to find the best last-minute deals. And I love being able to scout out a view from any seat before pulling the trigger. And of course, it's always at the lowest price, guaranteed. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it begins, which means you can finish off that last beer at the tailgate at your own pace because Gametime is the place to find last-minute seats to any event. They give you the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets, but not just fast and easy, also secure and simple to use. So right now, download the Gametime app and create an account and use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem our promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today for last-minute tickets at the lowest price, guaranteed.
Yeah.
Okay, this one from Ronald Shaw, 9148, who says, in my honest opinion, the scholarship reduction is an unintended consequence of name, image, and likeness. Fewer players mean less payouts needed to be made. My prediction is that you'll start seeing schools go more after multi-position players that can play both sides of the ball. And I'm not just referring to wide receiver / DB combos. Of course, there's one of those in Boulder right now. He goes on to say, I'm thinking offensive line, defensive line, tight end, linebacker type players. You'll also start seeing more starters being used on special team units as well. The latter thought there, obviously, we've seen some of that before, but this would really perk my interest, Chris, when he started talking about some guys that are double tough, because Texas Tech may have the greatest double tough player of all time, one E.J. Holub, who played both sides in the Super Bowl for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think maybe the only to do that, to start on both sides in a Super Bowl. But either way, this may seem far-fetched, but I wanted to throw it at you just because I thought it was so darn interesting.
Yeah, E.J. Holub, go look up tough in your Webster's dictionary, man, and EJ will be smiling right at you there for sure. I don't know if I'm willing to go this far yet. I think that in a unique circumstance like a Travis Hunter, which is what you talked about, who is a first-round draft pick possibly, and I don't know necessarily which one he's better at, corner or receiver. He's exceptional at both, and I think even he got worn down and obviously got hurt last year and missed the bulk of the year. As we've seen the settlement with the NCAA versus the House and all the conversations that it is started with the revenue sharing and with Title IX and with roster limits, and there doesn't seem to be. I think it's been discussed amongst Big 12 coaches on is there a consensus? There's not. I don't know if there's a consensus certainly amongst Big 12 coaches, nor is there that consensus across the country on exactly what or how to do this. I think the argument the NCAA tried to suggest in the midst of these conversations, and we've talked about this briefly, that folks, the NFL gets away with 53 roster spots, only 45 are active on a game day, and you guys have 85. I think that college coaches, administrators, commissioners, whatever, are suggesting, well, some of our teams may in fact play 13, 14, 15-ish games here. When you start factoring in conference championship games, expanded playoffs, and the like. And you also, I think the point has been made, well, yeah, the NFL does have a roster limit, but they also have a practice squad. And if somebody is hurt and out for the year, you just go sign somebody else off the street and you replace them. You can't do that in college.
Yeah.
So I think there's some I guess I get both sides. I think I'll just hope that they really use some common sense here. I don't know what this is going to look like, but I sure hope it's 95, not 85, 100, not 85, 90, not 85. Just some wiggle room there to give more kids a chance. I mean, think about, because we use the names of, Baker Mayfield and Tyree Wilson. I mean, what about like a guy like Colin Schooler that you wanted to add to your team and didn't have any scholarships for? I think that if I'm a coach too, and you're going to set a roster limit, I mean, I should have the right to go, well, there's some guys that I have on my team that are on scholarship right now that I'm going to cut. I'm just going to say, hey man, we've had you for a couple of years. It's just isn't working. It's right. Not you, it's us, but you don't have a spot here anymore. I mean, and I just don't know how good that all is. So, but as far as like two-way guys, I think you're always looking for versatility. There's no doubt there. And that's why spring practices it's all about cross-training is the big term, position flex. I'm going to train you to play both guard spots and center. I'm going to train you to play both tackle spots. I'm going to train you to play corner and safety and both safety spots. I'm going to put you at star and then maybe put you at linebacker. I'm going to let you, and that's really what you're doing there. You're trying to create a lot of depth internally and a lot of position flex, so you're just covered. So you've got options, so you don't show up on a Saturday afternoon and go, we have nobody that knows this position. I mean, that's what –
Callan, come on down.
Exactly.
You don't want that to happen, right?
Yeah, that's well. I mean, I mentioned to you when Cam Watts hit the portal. I think I mentioned to you last year with your star position that you got into one of these games toward the tail end of the season, and I want to say it maybe was the TCU game on that Thursday night. It was like he's the only backup we've got. He's the only other one that knows, because you were 3 or 4 deep already with injuries and having to move folks around. And like we had to train him this week because he's the only other one that maybe can do it or hold up or knows it or whatever. And that's just kind of a recent example. But offensive line, defensive line, man, I don't know. Because even with 85 scholarships, you're still going to have, I would say, 30 to 35 linemen okay, offensive or defensive on your team, there's enough there to specialize. Yes, you want some depth, on each side of the ball amongst your groups to where multiple positions. I just don't know if we're there yet to where you're going to have to go, dude, you're going to have to play both ways. We're like a small 2A school, and you're going to have to. I mean, it's not like that dire. Travis Hunter is a much different example, but you always love versatility, and I do think that to the point about special teams, that's the one that I think is probably as valid as anything. You may use a few more guys that are your dudes on special teams just because you don't have as many options via the walk on and all that. I mean, and I think I'm not going to cry too many tears, but I just think about like the tradition of the 12th man at Texas A&M. That's a whole tradition based on a walk on that plays special teams. Could be no more. I don't know.
Pretty much is essentially after Rodney Blackshear killed that. Didn't think it was so neat after they gave up a special teams kickoff return for a touchdown. That 12th man, where's he? He's up in the section with the Cowens of the world now. So shout out to Rodney Blackshear for that. Hey, one more shout out before we get out of here, Chris, because speaking of our lunatic fam, Kewan, Murphy Lee, City Spud, T-Love, and Big Lee, not them actually, but those in the YouTube comments, we mentioned some around the world, like Thailand, where we were getting some clicks, and for some reason we were showing up as the number 19 football podcast in all of Thailand, which is a very competitive market for football podcasts. Folks just started chiming in with where they're listening from, so I wanted to just run down this list really quickly and give a shout out. We went double time, double up in Nashville, North Houston, Thailand, also on the list. Heard from someone there. San Antonio, Longview, Oregon, Albuquerque, Denver 2 times, Santa Fe, Tampa Bay, Roanoke, Virginia, Plimpton, Massachusetts, Natchez, Mississippi, Oxford, Mississippi, Toronto, Joplin, Missouri, Chicago, Fort Worth, and some more international flavor, the People's Republic of Austin. So I'm sure that's not a complete list, but I appreciate you guys chiming in with where you're taking us in from, and keep it coming. Love to know where we're being listened or heard.
That's the beauty of this format. It can reach you wherever you are, and we all share, it's like what Cane's Chicken Fingers, one love, man, the Red Raiders, right? Yeah, one love. We all bleed red and black and all that. So that is wild, actually, to hear you run the gamut of the locale. And I just saw a guy, well, not pun intended, but I didn't mean to do that. But his name's Guy Brockman. I saw him at the grocery store the other day. He's like, "Man, love the podcast." I'm like, "Oh man, I appreciate that." And we talked, and turns out I know his brother. Yeah, that's right. But that's just one here in the LBK, right here in the 806. But yeah, parts unknown, like the missing link out there. But right. but now they're not unknown. Now we know where you're listening from. We certainly appreciate it.
That's right. And I like to just think about the thought that once upon a time, Bob Marley's just hanging out there like, "Bob, you got a good line for today?" And he's like, "One love." And they're like, "Dude, you're going to be remembered forever for that line." And then in 2024, we're like, like Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers, one love. Poor Bob. Shout out to Bob. Shout out to everybody all around the world.
Yeah, yours was much better. Yeah, Chicken Fingers. Don't hold a candle to Bob Marley.
Man. Hey, I don't know.
There's some truth to that. Yes,
I got to be honest. All right, appreciate the bonus time, Chris. For Chris, I'm Casey. Appreciate all of you being out there once again. Keep your head on a swivel for more episodes to come, and make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. And we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.